Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships. As today we're going to be going over the Tier 9 Soviet cruiser. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce the name of this ship, the Dmitri Donskoi, with our seasoned commander, which I will get in and talk about. But first we need to talk about what kind of cruiser is the Dmitri. I would define this as a... Oh, how do I put this? She is versatile. I think she excels in terms of playing in her play style, playing around the caps and objectives due to her 12-kilometer radar, right, and her concealed 12.6. So I'd say she's very much flexible in playing around that 12-kilometer, that mid-range, right? But she does have, of course, this torpedo capability to push in when you need to. But she probably plays the kiting role a bit the best in terms of her 180mm guns, which she in total has 12 of them, with flat shell arcs and decent fire chance. So she does quite well, I would say, in the mid-range area, and depending on what's happening in the circumstances of battle, either you can push in, or if it's just best to kite away, you simply kite away. But with that, let's talk more about her armor scheme, because that plays a large factor, right, in how you play cruisers in World of Warships these days with all the overmatch. In being a cruiser, I like to think of this cruiser line as a light cruiser line, but it doesn't necessarily feel like a light cruiser line, like in comparison to like the Minotaur line or the Worcester, the American light cruiser line. She feels a little bit more heavier than that, but there's still the actual heavy cruiser line, the Soviet cruiser line. But you see a lot of this 25mm armor scheme spread throughout across the ship. You can see the deck is a little bit thicker with 27. Not that that makes necessarily a huge difference, but a little bit better. More is better. And of course, your 13mm superstructure. Now, one of the things that she does get, she doesn't get an icebreaker bow, but she has this 35mm that then transitions into a 100mm armor belt, giving you the capability of bouncing some larger shells if you do angle well enough. So do keep that in mind, that you can utilize that when given the opportunity. Her citadel is above waterline. She is a pretty long ship. She's bigger over her predecessor class, the Chapayev class. And here you can see, of course, it's going to extend all the way from your rear main battery turret to their forward main battery turret. And yeah, pretty boxy, pretty long, so just be mindful. You will be punished if you show broadside in the ship, so it's best to angle when possible, because you do have this nice armor belt. But being coated in a lot of that 25mm means that you're going to be overmatched a lot from with the bow. If there are battleships, even like should be like a Montana, like a 406mm should be able to go through that. Let me check. Let me check that while I say it out loud. If I do the math right, I have to remember how to do this. I think it's divided by. Yeah, so I think the 406s can pin over 28mm. So Montana, you could easily just overmatch this unless you get angled enough and utilize the belt. So try to do that when possible when you're here sailing this ship. Now first we're going to talk about modules. There's only two modules that have an upgraded module. So starting off here, because we have the main battery reload in modification 3 in the 6th slot, our reload time is reduced. We're looking at 11-second reload time. Otherwise I think it's just over 12 if I'm not mistaken. You can see with, I think our commander, I think we have greased the gears for the main battery turrets. We'll check, but 180-degree turn time of 25.9 seconds. But you also, you get that nerf on the main battery traverse speed. HE shell damage, 2,500. AP shell damage, 4,400. These are great guns. The armor piercing's great. The high explosive's great. That was demonstrated in yesterday's video, which I'll tag at the end of this video. So definitely don't sleep on the armor piercing, especially if you get opportunities to shoot broadsides of cruisers. I think we have survivability expert. We do. Okay, I don't have grease the gears. But when you're looking at the survivability, it's actually, I think it's like 41,000 hit points stock. Because our survivability expert is ticking here, giving us a larger health pool. So with that in mind, so you'd see represented of 44,250 with having that skill mastered. And then with having the upgraded hull B, you can see our hit points go up to 47,450. But you also see that there's a noticeable jump in the AA defense and a little bit of a bump there on the maneuverability of the ship. So typically if you're grinding up the ship line or you're yet to, go for the hull first. Your torpedoes have a reload time of 117 seconds. Adrenaline Rush, of course, will reduce that reload time. Your torpedo range is 8 kilometers, so not as like 4 kilometers, like for example with Talon, but 8 kilometers. That is helpful. Maximum damage of 14,400, and they're not fast torpedoes. They're rather slow to moderate at 55 knots. Your gunfire control system stock is 16.2 kilometers, and then you're going to upgrade that to 17.8, so almost 18 kilometers, which is actually quite decent, really nice. I haven't seen the need for the extended range in the 6th slot. I will talk about that, but really nice to have 17.8, especially given the fact that you don't have spotter plane. Propulsion, you're at 36 knots with Sierra Mike flag, which increases your ship speed by plus 5%. You're up to almost 38 knots, so that's really good, and I do recommend running this if you're playing on this line. Still kind of funny, you know, you have these more of these battleships coming into the game that can outrun you when you're in a cruiser like this, so anything with this additional speed will help you. You know, like a Georgia at tier 9 runs you down. Alright, moving on to the upgrades. So first I'm going to recommend the main Armaments Mod 1. This is going to reduce the risk of your main battery becoming incapacitated and torpedo tubes becoming incapacitated by negative 20%. So reduced risk there. You're going to improve your main battery survivability by plus 50%, your torpedo tube survivability by plus 50%, and repair time for both of those is reduced by negative 20% if either of those should be incapacitated. One of the things I didn't make mention of, but we always at least catch ourselves there, is that you have decent plate armor, 175 millimeter to 120 to 100, and then 120 to 100, and then the back's actually pretty strong, 210. So the rear of the turrets are actually the strongest. So it's kind of funny when some ships like that in the game have the strongest. So you're vulnerable from the sides, so be careful. You know, and if a shot did manage to land up on top, if it doesn't bounce, you know, it could incapacitate there depending on the shell trajectory. And you can see your torpedoes are just out here in the open, so they can easily be incapacitated. You get 2 sets of 5, so 10 torpedoes in total. So I like having a little bit of that insurance, especially if I'm going to run up on a ship and torpedo them, like you saw in yesterday's video. I don't mess with the auxiliary armaments because there's just no need to. Magazine Mod 1 reduces risk of ship's magazine detonating by negative 70%, but if you played the game long enough, you're going to know whether you're playing randoms, ranked, or clan battles, you want to take the Juliet Charlie combat signal, which completely eliminates the risk of your ship's magazine detonating, and then you can free up an upgrade slot for something else, like Main Armaments Mod 1. Now for slot 2 here, if you have the coal, I would recommend taking the Surveillance Radar Mod 1. This extends your radar action time by plus 20%. So you can see our action time is 30 seconds. So before this, it's hard to guess what it was. Maybe it was like 25 seconds. Yeah, I guess it would be about 25 seconds. So we've added an additional 5 seconds. So that longer spotting, maybe better chance of taking out that enemy destroyer, or just longer spotting for you to get some more fire on that target. So I like running the Surveillance Radar Mod 1 on most of my radar cruisers. It just helps a lot here. Otherwise, if you don't have the coal to spend on one of these unique, oh sorry, not unique, but special upgrades, then otherwise I'd recommend going for engine protection to reduce risk of your engine becoming incapacitated, steering gears becoming incapacitated, or improving your repair time for the engine or steering gears. This is what I was running up until I got to the Dmitri Donskoi, and I made the investment on the Surveillance Radar Mod 1. the game, my army is probably bugged right now because it's my first time logging into the game today, so it's not going to show me how much resources I have and stuff, but I'll just click on the defensive AA as an example. I mean, the Hydra would probably be my second option if you're looking to run a special upgrade here on the second slot, but the radar is going to be the best. It costs you 17,000 coal, not taking into account the coupon. So I'm interested to see if the armory will load on me here eventually. Coupon is a negative 25% off coupon, which you see I don't have access to right now. If with the coupon, I thought it was going to just take me into the armory fully. It would be like 12,500, 750 coal, something to that effect. Moving on, so we talked about how our turret traverse is 25.9 seconds. Keep that in mind. Myself, I like to run the aiming systems mod 1. I'll put it on the right side of the screen here. The main reason why I like to take this skill is that it improves your main battery shell dispersion, reduces it by negative 7%, meaning that we're going to have tighter horizontal maximum shell dispersion and tighter vertical maximum shell dispersion. So we're shaving you off, I don't know, maybe 6 to 12 meters on either one to have tighter shell groupings. Helpful when you're trying to get rid of the sub or that pesky destroyer running around in that cap zone. Also get a slight buff on the torpedo tube traverse speed by plus 20%, so it means you can get torpedoes faster on target. So you would see an example of that. Also that speed when I dumped both racks of torpedoes onto the Izumo I yellowed yesterday. And then a slight secondary buff. Not that the secondaries are amazing. I actually should have had them on at the end of that battle because I had them initially turned off just so I could stay dark and then have to have Battleship fishing for me with his depth charge airstrikes. But it has a 7.3 kilometer range, 6% chance of causing a fire, and their I think their size is 100 millimeter mounts. Yeah, and an okay-ish reload time of 3.6 seconds. Otherwise, the main battery mod 2. This is going to improve your main battery traverse speed. This would be my second recommendation. I would also say feel free to try either of these upgrades out. See what you like and what helps you feel best. So if you're talking about a 25.9 second, then that would be bring you down to just over 22 seconds. So you may find usage for that. Often I find myself shifting side to side sometimes depending on what's occurring in the battle in terms of my positioning. But I prefer aiming systems mod 1 most thus far. In the fourth slot, I'm going to recommend propulsion mod 1. Time taken to reach engine full power, full engine power when accelerating, negative 50%. This is very, very helpful on cruisers, especially I think much more so on this type of cruiser line, kind of being the light cruiser line, air quotes. Because you'll be accelerating, you'll be slowing down, you'll be tanking some damage. I have tanked a lot of damage in the Donskoi. And my cruiser play, I just love the prop mod in the fourth slot. If I was going for the steering gears and the rudder, typically I do that in the fifth slot when I'm giving up concealment. But I have kept concealment here, so this would be my first choice. Second choice would be here. Damage control system mod 2 is something much more with battle cruisers, battleships that you see. For the fifth slot, I recommend the concealment system mod 1. Ship's detectability range, negative 10%. Squad detectability range, negative 10%. Dispersion of shells fired by enemies attacking your ship, plus 5%, meaning they have a slightly worse dispersion when firing upon your ship. So I like running this, and with Conceal on our commander, that gets us down to 12.6 by sea, 6.2 by air, which isn't so bad. As our A defense is 5.8, so there's a 0.4 kilometer gap there in terms of when our A guns would begin firing. And it gives you a 0.6 kilometer gap between your radar, since it's a 12 kilometer radar. If you're going for something more like a lighthouse build, which maybe I try out with Nevsky, I don't think I necessarily want to do it here on the Donskoi, then I would say steering gears mod 2 in the fifth slot. I'd still keep propulsion in the fourth slot, but just know that's going to bloom your concealment up to probably over close to almost 14 kilometers, maybe it's just over. Maybe it's like 13.8 or something, I don't know. So just do keep that in mind, what you're going to be giving up, and you're going to have a greater gap between your radar and your concealment coverage. 6th slot, I do the main battery mod 3. I like my DPM, my cruiser play style, and as for myself, because I'm a radar, I have the hydro, I'm playing around caps a lot. And I want to be able to support my team, I want to support my destroyers, I want to support my other cruisers, my battleship players, in taking control of flanks, taking control of the capture objectives. So that's my playstyle means, okay, I'm not doing a farming build where I'm at range and I'm just wanting to shoot and set as many fires as possible. I kind of want to be in on the action. So for myself, that 17.8 kilometer gun range is plenty enough for myself. I don't need more, okay? Yes, you have good shell velocity travel time. Yes, you have flatter shell arcs. So this is much better for firing at long distances compared to Worcester or Minotaur, as an example. But I think that this ship is meant to be more playing around key objectives on the map. So with that said, I like having this to have the greater DPM, though we do take a slight hit on our main battery traverse speed, but we get 11-second reload time and the 100 gauge return time of 25.9 seconds, which is more comparable to something like a battleship in the game, right? Most battleships are around 30 seconds. So if it really does bug you, all right, you can still take that main battery mod 2 in the 3rd slot if you just want to try and feel it out. Going over to the armaments, we've talked a little bit about it, but let's talk a little bit more about it. With the high explosive, you have a 13% chance of causing a fire on a target. Now with both of these two combat signals here, India X-Ray and Victor Lima, we can bump it up to 15%, which I would advise you to do. You can get decent fires, kind of trying to wear down enemies' repair parties and damage control parties, so very good to utilize. Armor piercing we've talked about a bit already, but it is really good. Don't sleep on it. Do take advantage of switching to it when you have broadside cruiser targets. There's parts of me that like, a gun feeder I feel like would be quite nice to have on this line, but we'll talk about that as we go on. Torpedoes, again, 117-second reload time, 8-kilometer reload range, maximum damage 14,400, speed 55 knots, which I say is slow to moderately slow, and a detectability range of 1.1 kilometers. So it's not like you're going to get really good stealth-launched torpedoes between their slowness and their detectability range. Right, if you're pushing up on a target and an enemy player knows you have torpedoes, he's probably just going to be expecting them coming if he hasn't tried to purposely aim and take out your torpedoes, which you can do in the game. And these are exposed torpedoes on the Donskoi, which is what I would do if I was something like a Salem and a Donskoi is racing up on me. Depth charges, you get 2 charges, 8 in a charge, so 16 total. They have a 40-second reload time, and the maximum damage is 2,400. Unfortunately, these are not airstrike depth charges. They are ship-based, so that puts you in a much more vulnerable position when maybe trying to focus on deleting that sub you think's maybe beneath you, and you're maneuvering to try to get your depth charges on him, and that means you have to go broadside, and then as that Suma claps you, you're up. It's not a fun day, where the airstrike depth charges give you much more flexibility than the ship-based. So do be mindful of utilizing these. I don't think I've actually killed a submarine yet with these on this ship, just because there are a good number of other ships that do have the airstrike depth charge. Damage control party, standard for cruisers, 5-second action time, cooldown time of 60 seconds. You have an unlimited number of these charges. Your repair party is, you get 3 of them. You can get up to 4 if you take Superintendent. HP per second, 237. With India Delta, which is going to improve how much health we can get back, plus 284. So I was running this in yesterday's video. Pretty much anything that has a heal, repair party, I run the India Delta combat signal on. Even destroyers, I run this on. Action time 28 seconds, cooldown time 80 seconds. Number of consumables 3, as I said. Here you get an option between your hydroacoustic search and your defensive AA. This is a 5-kilometer hydro, picks up torpedoes 3.5 kilometers away. Submarines at maximum depth 2 kilometers, which you saw in yesterday's video. Consumable action time 100 seconds, cooldown time 120 seconds. We get 3 of these. Now we can extend that action time here with the Sarah Bravo. So that's going to bump us up to 110 seconds. Sorry, I'm trying to be able to show you that there without blocking everything. So I would advise running that as well. There's also a buff with this combat signal, which reduces the consumable time of your defensive AA fire. So that's another option you can take here. You don't always see aircraft carriers in the game, but you are pretty much always guaranteed going to see torpedoes. So that's why I would take hydroacoustic search, especially with submarines now in the game. So I don't really run defensive AA fire so much in randoms ranked clan battles. Maybe if I'm playing ops, but there's not a tier 9 op. I'm just saying in general when it comes to defensive AA fire skill. Your radar, 12 kilometer action time, 30 seconds with our radar special upgrade here, extending the action time. Cooldown time, 120 seconds. We get 3 of them. Other thing we can do is run the November Foxtrot, which is going to reduce the consumable preparation and reload time by -5%. So now you see 57 seconds for damage control party, 76 seconds for repair party, 114 seconds for cooldown time on the hydro, and 114 second cooldown time for the radar. So I do like running that as well. In terms of other combat signals I would run here, this is pretty typical what I run. Like having the Hotel Yankee, damage caused by ramming an enemy plus 50%, then you take less damage when ramming an enemy. So this is pretty much what I run here on the Dmitri Donskoi. Alright, moving on to the commander. You can see we have a seasoned commander, so let me talk a little bit about him. I'm not even going to try to butcher or say his name, but he is available in the armory. Now I'm going to go to the armory and I'm going to attempt to show you how much he's worth, how much he costs, but you can see my armory is bugged. I have to log out and then log back into the game a second time just to get it working properly, so it's showing you all these commanders that I don't have. So you have 2 of the same ones. One's for 1,500 doubloons, one's for 35,000 coal. So you can see I have the one for doubloons. Both of them have the same enhanced skills with preventive maintenance, grease the gears, and emergency repair specialist. So if you have the doubloons, I do recommend being able to pick these guys up. In addition to, of course, Kuznetsov, the unique or legendary commander. All right, so let's just talk about some things here with our build and setup. So we have 4 points remaining here to utilize. So I'm going to share with you some options. Okay, I'm going to share with you what I've run so far. I've been kind of feeling some things out. So first off, I like taking the last stand. I have had my steering gears, I have had my engine incapacitated. So for me, having last stand has been very beneficial, very helpful. The ship remains partially able to sustain speed and maneuverability with the engine and steering gears incapacitated, which I feel in a cruiser, especially in the meta of World Warships, is really important to have. Control of your ship, even if it's penalized. It's better than sailing in circles or being dead in the water, as an example. Here on the for 3-point commander, I've taken priority target. I like having the spatial awareness, that additional awareness, not only to know of the map awareness, but also the awareness of the enemy. Are they aiming at me? Is there a destroyer flipping between his torpedoes and his main battery guns? Because if it'll say 1 detected, he flips his torpedoes, it just says detected, meaning he's probably getting some fish, angry fish in the water at me. So I have liked running that here. I'll talk about maybe another option if you feel comfortable not running priority target, but I say probably majority of players, or I would recommend, probably going to want to run the priority target. There are cheeky battleship players who take cross-map shots, especially when you get into the higher tier, or maybe at lower tier I wouldn't feel so much like I would necessarily need to run this. For a 6-point commander, I would just say for Adrenaline Rush. So it helps you have a faster main battery reload time, torpedo tube reload time, bar stroke armament reload time, secondary battery reload time, and it slightly buffs your AA damage for each 1% of HP lost. So, you know, that 11-second reload time can begin to turn into a 10.8-second reload time, a 10.6-second reload time, 10.5-second reload time, and your torpedoes are reloading not just 117 seconds, but maybe like 110 seconds or something like that. So I like that. It's just, it's a skill that helps you get more DPM out of the game, because you are going to take damage at some point, right? So I like running it. And then if you're going to go for a standard cruiser build, then for a 10-point skill, I would recommend taking Concealment Expert next, helping you get down to that 12.6 kilometer. This chip displays well around objectives, in my opinion, between the Hydro and that lovely Russian 12-kilometer radar. So I like running it here. Now from here, there's probably just some different paths you can take. You don't have to follow the same path I took in terms of what skill I took next. So I'm just going to lay some things out for you. So after these 10 points, with 13-point commander, I took the survivability expert. So I got my health in total up to 47,450 hit points. That's helpful to have, and it makes you able to have some abilities. So those last second impacts on the game. You know, we even got a Dreadnought out of yesterday's game because we took a lot of damage, especially as we ran up on the enemy Izumo. I like running it. After this, with a 17-point commander, then I took the top grade gunner. This has a permanent effect of reducing your secondary battery reload time by -10%. It's not really the reason why I take this. I take it because your can be activated skill is that increases the main battery reload speed while an enemy ship is within your ship's standard detectability range. So whatever your standard detectability range is that the concealment shows, for us is 12.6. Our main battery reloads -8% faster. This doesn't take account fires and other combat events. Just is there an enemy ship within your 12.6 kilometer detectability range or not, okay? So that gets your reload time down even more, which you saw in yesterday's video. So if you're playing around the objectives caps, it's very helpful. You know, you could get more mileage out of this skill if that's kind of talking about that lighthouse build. We stopped taking the concealment, right? So like, let's say I would give up conceal here, take steering gears mod 2, then we're gonna get a even larger radius because our standard detectability range has increased. And we are going to get more frequently are you going to have a reduced reload time with that -8% kicking in. That's what I've done with 17 points. For a 20-point commander, what I'm looking towards is Superintendent. Again, this is personal preference. This is just my opinions. I'll still share some other things with you. I'm a cruiser player who normally lives through the last half of the battle. I make it to the last half of the battle. I'm a cruiser player who tends to burn through a lot of his consumables in playing the objective and playing around caps, so on and so forth. So I've burned through, and I've not had any radars left. I've not had any repair parties left, right? So without this, I only have 3. With this, you get 4 additional, or 1 additional on each of your consumables, giving you 4 total with the repair party, hydro, and radar. So that's just, in my opinion, what I would really like to run here. After this, I intend to take Grease the Gears for a 21-point commander. This improves our main battery traverse speed by +20%. A standard commander here would be +15%. So this is where that enhanced skill with Znamensky kicks in. So now we have a 180-degree turn time of 21.6 seconds. So I'm very much looking forward to having this. I'm like, I wish these turrets rotated just a little bit faster. So this is what I intend to work up towards, okay? So this is what I'm currently working towards and intend to have as a 21-point commander on the ship. What I would run with 21-point commander on the ship. Now, there can be some things you can switch around, right? Let's say the turrets don't bother you, then you could take that gun feeder. Is that what they still call it, right? Yeah, reduces your main battery shell switching time by -40%. Yeah. So then 6.6 seconds. You know, there's some points I'm like, with that Azuma and Ibuki, yesterday, I think it was. I was like, oh, I wish I have HE loaded. I wish I could just go ahead and switch it to armor piercing, but it's already halfway through the reload, and I don't really want to burn that, right? I'll just go to the AP the next salvo. So that would be another option to have here. You could still take, or you could take, incoming fire alert. If you feel comfortable not having priority target, you can flip it over for Demolition Expert, give yourself an additional 1% chance of causing fires. So that's a 16% chance of causing fires. And whenever an enemy ship that's a greater distance of 4.5 kilometers fires on you, you'll see it'll go for incoming alert. Will be on the center right of your screen. So you could flip that, right, easily. You could do that as well. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to run. Another thing you could do is you could have the incoming fire alert, and then you could take consumables enhancements, give up priority target, or you could just keep it like this, that too. But I would still like to have that, give up priority target, and maybe it's like this, and then I get a 10% additional action time on my radar and hydro. So then our hydro is 110, then that would be 11 seconds, so then 122 seconds if I did that right. Radar is going to go from 30 to 33 seconds. So if you want to build into a slightly longer radar time and hydro time, you could. But I'd probably lean a little more towards Demolition Expert first before this skill. Other skill we could talk about is, of course, the improved focus. They slightly improved focus fire training. Is that right? I think they did. I'm like totally spazzing on that in my brain right now. But you would have a greater damage caused with the priority sector activated, priority sector reinforcement, so forth. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not that exquisite. Or you could just simply not take any of those other skills that we talked about and take the A Defense and ASW Expert, which this does more damage with your A Defense and ASW Expert, giving you, so you see the A Defense jumps up to 86 now. But, yes, it gives you a ship consumable preparation reload time when activated by negative 50% here on the cruiser, but you gonna only have, right now, we'd only have 3 radars, 3 hydros, 3 repair parties. Now, this doesn't mean that this wouldn't be applicable. This works even with spotter planes detecting you, fighter planes detecting you, someone drops an air charge depth strike on you as well. So you could take that. If you really wanted to do that, then maybe I'd say take this and then give up top grade gunner and take superintendent and grease the gears as an example. There's several things you can do here with the cruiser. This is just me telling you what I would run. This is just my opinion. You're free to disagree. Just kind of weighing out some different options here on this ship. So with that being said, we need to wrap this video up. If you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you are subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, and we will catch you next time. Take care.